Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
So from Newcastle announcing their second official signing, to revealing Eddie Howe's reaction, to Newcastle about to submit an opening bid for an exciting star.
Wow! Beautiful!
To Andre Santos being back on Newcastle's radar, to uncovering Newcastle's surprise midfield target. We'll also discuss the latest breaking news regarding Kamara's potential move to Newcastle. As per, join us as we'll break it all down and discuss the latest Newcastle United transfer news.
Let's go.
So starting off, Newcastle United have officially completed the signing of Bazoumana Toure, making the Ivorian winger the club's second arrival of the summer following the earlier addition of Ewan Yowan. The 20-year-old joins from German side Hoffenheim, after Newcastle agreed a deal believed to be worth around £43 million earlier this week. After completing the final formalities, Toure has now signed a long-term contract and becomes one of the key pieces in Eddie Howe's summer rebuild. His arrival comes at a crucial time for the Magpies. With Anthony Gordon having departed earlier in the transfer window, Newcastle needed to bring in a winger capable of providing pace, creativity, and attacking threat from the left flank. Toure appears to fit that profile perfectly. Speaking after completing the move, the winger could not hide his excitement. He described playing in the Premier League as a childhood dream and spoke warmly about Newcastle's family atmosphere, promising to give everything for the club and expressing his eagerness to experience St James Park for the first time. Those comments are likely to go down well with supporters, particularly given the uncertainty that has surrounded several transfer pursuits this summer. Toure arrives with an impressive reputation. After emerging as a promising youngster at Swedish club Hammarby, he continued his development in Germany and enjoyed a breakthrough campaign with Hoffenheim during the 2025-26 season. Across 30 Bundesliga appearances, he recorded 5 goals and 12 assists, contributing directly to 17 goals in what was his first full season in one of Europe's strongest leagues. Those numbers only tell part of the story. Toure is widely regarded as a direct and fearless winger who thrives in 1-versus-1 situations. His acceleration and willingness to attack defenders immediately stand out, while his ability to create chances for teammates is reflected in his assist record. Just as importantly for Howe, his physical attributes and work rate suggest he has the tools needed to adapt to Newcastle's demanding, high-intensity style of football. The signing also sends a message about the club's recruitment strategy. Rather than pursuing established superstars, Newcastle continue to target young players with high ceilings who can develop into elite performers. At 20 years old, Toure still has significant room for improvement, meaning supporters may only be seeing the beginning of what he can become. The pressure on him will inevitably be heightened because he arrives following Gordon's departure. Replacing a player of Gordon's quality is never straightforward, but Newcastle clearly believe Toure possesses the talent, pace and creativity needed to fill that void over time. With Ewan Yowan already through the door and further arrivals expected following the club's major squad reshuffle, Newcastle's summer business is beginning to gather momentum. For now, though, the spotlight belongs to Bazoumana Toure. A dream move to the Premier League has become reality, and Newcastle supporters will be hoping the exciting young winger can bring flair, goals and assists to St James's Park for many years to come. In fact, Newcastle United's leadership team have made it clear that Bazoumana Toure is not being viewed simply as a signing for the future. They believe he has the talent to make a significant impact while still possessing enormous room for development. Speaking after the deal was officially confirmed, Eddie Howe highlighted the qualities that convinced Newcastle to invest heavily in the 20-year-old winger. Howe pointed to Toure's performances in the Bundesliga with Hoffenheim and his experience on the international stage with Ivory Coast as evidence that he is already capable of competing at a high level. However, the Newcastle boss was particularly enthusiastic about the player's long-term potential, describing him as someone with a high ceiling and a player who can offer something different to the current squad. That phrase is perhaps the most telling. Newcastle are clearly not signing Toure solely because of what he is today. They are signing him because of what they believe he can become over the next few years under Howe's coaching staff. Sporting director Ross Wilson struck a very similar tone. Wilson praised Toure's progression over recent seasons and stressed that Newcastle see further development ahead. He also revealed that work on the transfer had been ongoing for several weeks while the winger was away on World Cup duty, suggesting the club had identified him as a priority target long before the deal became public. His comments reinforced the impression that this was a carefully planned signing rather than a reactionary move following Anthony Gordon's departure. Wilson also made a point of thanking Hoffenheim for their cooperation throughout negotiations, something that often indicates a transfer process that was completed with little drama behind the scenes. For Newcastle supporters, there is another reason to feel optimistic. Hoffenheim were also the club from which Newcastle signed Joelinton back in 2019. While Joelinton's journey on Tyneside was far from straightforward initially, he ultimately transformed into one of the club's most important players and a fan favourite. Nobody is suggesting Toure will follow exactly the same path, but the comparison serves as a reminder that Newcastle have previously unearthed a player from Hoffenheim who became a huge success. What stands out most from both Howe's and Wilson's comments is the emphasis on potential. Toure arrives with strong Bundesliga numbers, World Cup experience, elite pace and proven creativity, but Newcastle clearly believe the best is yet to come. At just 20 years old, he is entering an environment that has helped players such as Joelinton, Lewis Hall and Anthony Gordon reach new levels in recent seasons. The challenge now is turning promise into consistent Premier League performances. If Howe and his coaching staff can unlock that high ceiling they keep referencing, Newcastle may have secured one of the most exciting young wingers in European football. For a club looking to bounce back after a disappointing campaign and rebuild following several high-profile departures, that possibility is exactly why there is so much excitement surrounding Basumana Toure's arrival. Then moving on in a potential incoming, Newcastle United appear to be in a strong position in their pursuit of Freiburg midfielder Johan Manzambi, with fresh reports suggesting the club has received positive encouragement regarding a potential deal. The 20-year-old Swiss international has emerged as one of the breakout stars of the World Cup, registering 3 goals and 2 assists in 4 appearances. His performances have inevitably attracted attention from across Europe, and Newcastle are now pushing to turn their long-standing interest into a formal offer. Supporters will understandably be nervous. After seeing Victor Munoz slip through Newcastle's fingers at the last moment, despite reports that a deal was virtually complete, many fans have become wary of getting too excited until a contract is actually signed. However, the situation with Manzambi appears somewhat different. According to Craig Hope, Freiburg have indicated that Newcastle are currently leading the race for the midfielder's signature. In fact, Fabrizio Romano claims that Newcastle are finally preparing an opening bid after initial contacts were made in recent days for the star, who has scored 3 goals and delivered 2 assists in an excellent World Cup campaign so far. While there is interest from Manchester United, their primary focus remains Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott, potentially giving Newcastle a valuable opportunity to move quickly and secure their target before serious competition intensifies. That is perhaps the most encouraging aspect of the latest update. In recent transfer battles, Newcastle have often found themselves competing directly with clubs that can offer either bigger wages, greater commercial appeal, or a more established recent record of success. If Manchester United are prioritizing another player, it significantly improves Newcastle's chances of getting a deal over the line. Financially, there are not believed to be major obstacles either. With the club having generated substantial funds through player sales this summer, including the departures of Anthony Gordon and the impending exit of Sandro Tonali, Newcastle have the resources available to invest in key targets. Manzambi would certainly fit the profile Newcastle have increasingly favoured under Eddie Howe and Ross Wilson. At 20 years old, he combines youth with top-level experience and appears to possess the technical ability and attacking output needed to thrive in the Premier League. His World Cup performances have only strengthened the belief that he could become one of Europe's most exciting midfielders over the next few years. That said, Newcastle cannot afford complacency. The lesson from the Munoz saga is that no transfer is secure until every document is signed and officially announced. Modern transfer windows move quickly, and circumstances can change in a matter of hours. For now, though, the signs are positive. Freiburg appear open to a deal, Newcastle are preparing an official bid, and some of the biggest potential competition may be distracted elsewhere. If Newcastle act decisively, this could become one of the most important signings of their summer rebuild. After missing out on Munoz, supporters will be desperate to see the club finally get one of its major targets over the line. Based on the latest reports, Johan Manzambi may be the player who helps restore some confidence in Newcastle's recruitment drive and gives Eddie Howe another exciting young talent to develop at St James's Park. Then Newcastle United have once again been linked with Chelsea midfielder Andre Santos, as the club continues its search for reinforcements following Sandro Tonali's departure to Tottenham Hotspur. Santos is not a new name to Newcastle supporters. The Magpies were strongly interested in the Brazilian before he joined Chelsea FC in 2023, but ultimately lost out when the London club secured his signature. 3 years later, Newcastle appear to have revived that interest. According to reports, Santos is valued at around £50 million and is attracting attention from several Premier League clubs, including Manchester United. Newcastle are said to be monitoring the situation closely as they assess their midfield options for the remainder of the transfer window. The 22-year-old's development since arriving in England has been interesting. After loan spells away from Stamford Bridge, Santos eventually broke into Chelsea's first-team picture and made 27 appearances last season. While he was not selected for Brazil's World Cup squad, he has already earned 6 senior international caps, underlining the level of talent many believe he possesses. From Newcastle's perspective, Santos represents an attractive profile. He is young, technically gifted, physically capable of handling Premier League football, and still has significant room for improvement. Those are exactly the traits Newcastle have targeted repeatedly under Eddie Howe and Ross Wilson. However, it remains unclear how advanced their interest really is. At the moment, much of the club's focus still appears to be centered on Freiburg midfielder Johan Manzambi. Reports suggest Newcastle are in a strong position for the Swiss international, and securing that deal could significantly alter their plans elsewhere in midfield. The two players are also quite different stylistically. Manzambi offers attacking output and creativity from midfield, while Santos is generally viewed as a more balanced central midfielder who can contribute both defensively and offensively. In theory, Newcastle could pursue both, particularly given the scale of the squad rebuild currently underway, but much may depend on available funds and other incoming business. One thing Newcastle seem determined to avoid is being caught out again. After the frustration of losing Victor Munoz to Liverpool at the last minute, the club appears to be working on multiple targets simultaneously, rather than focusing exclusively on one player. Maintaining alternatives gives Newcastle flexibility if negotiations stall or rival clubs enter the race. For now, Santos looks more like an option being kept under consideration rather than an imminent signing. There is no doubt that he would be an exciting addition to Eddie Howe's midfield, but Newcastle supporters will probably be hoping the club first gets the Manzambi deal completed before turning their attention elsewhere. Still, the renewed interest in Andre Santos demonstrates that Newcastle are casting a wide net in their search for midfield reinforcements. Whether he becomes a serious target or simply remains a contingency plan may depend on how the next few weeks unfold in the transfer market. Then Newcastle United's reported pursuit of Lamine Camara appears to have cooled significantly, with attention now turning towards Burnley midfielder Leslie Ugachukwu as Eddie Howe looks to reshape his midfield following Sandro Tonali's departure. For much of the summer, Camara was viewed as Newcastle's preferred midfield target. The Monaco star had impressed in League One and was expected to become a serious target once his World Cup campaign with Senegal came to an end. Unfortunately for Camara, his tournament ended in heartbreaking fashion. Senegal appeared to be heading towards a penalty shootout against Belgium after surrendering a 2-goal lead, only for Camara to concede a late penalty in extra time. Belgium captain Yuri Tielemans converted from the spot, sending Senegal crashing out and ending Camara's World Cup adventure. Despite that opening the door for Newcastle to make their move, reports now suggest the Magpies are no longer actively pursuing the Senegal international. Instead, Newcastle's focus appears to have shifted towards Burnley midfielder Leslie Ugachukwu. The 22-year-old joined Burnley FC last summer in a deal worth around £24 million, but was unable to prevent the Clarets from suffering relegation. Even so, he remained a regular presence throughout the campaign, making 38 appearances across all competitions, while contributing 3 goals and 2 assists. Ugachukwu is primarily a defensive midfielder and would offer Newcastle a different profile from some of the other names linked with the club this summer. At 22, he fits Newcastle's preferred recruitment model of signing young players with room for development, while already possessing Premier League experience. His physicality, ball-winning ability, and athleticism are traits that could appeal to Eddie Howe, particularly if Newcastle want to add more defensive stability to the middle of the pitch. Evaluating his performances last season is not straightforward, however. Burnley endured a difficult campaign and spent much of the season struggling near the bottom of the table. That makes it hard to determine exactly how much responsibility should be placed on individual players. On one hand, poor performances can often be explained by the environment around them. On the other, truly exceptional talents often stand out even in struggling teams. That is likely why opinions on Ugachukwu remain somewhat divided. One factor that could work in Newcastle's favour is his representation. Reports suggest he shares the same agency as Eddie Howe, which could potentially help smooth negotiations should Newcastle decide to advance their interest. The financial aspect is also worth watching. Burnley paid £24 million for the Frenchman only a year ago, and are unlikely to sanction a sale at a loss. Given his age and Premier League experience, Newcastle would probably need to offer somewhere in the region of £30 million to persuade Burnley to do business. Whether Ugachukwu becomes Newcastle's primary midfield target remains unclear. The club continues to monitor several options, including Johan Manzambi and Chelsea midfielder Andre Santos, as they seek the right balance between quality, potential, and value. For now, though, it appears that Leslie Ugachukwu is emerging as a genuine candidate to strengthen Newcastle's midfield, while hopes of a move for Lamine Camara continue to fade.